Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Before we get started here, I wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping. I wanted to say congratulations to our buddy Matthew, who won the contest that we did at the end of the Trick or Treats episode. He won a digital copy of 2018's Halloween.
What a treat.
So congratulations, buddy. And then the other thing I want to do, because we always ask for feedback, good or bad, and we read some feedback a couple of episodes ago, and we got some new feedback that I thought was too good to pass up. So we're going to read this on the air as well. And this one's pretty short, and it's from basically an anonymous account, so the guy didn't even leave his name, which is too bad. But here's his comment. He just says, "These guys are awful. That's all I can say politely." So, thanks, sir. We're proud that we could make you feel anything, I guess.
Well, that is what it is, right? You got to take the good with the bad.
That's right. Good. And if you don't get any constructive criticism, then how can you grow?
Right.
At least that's what my boss tells me when he's giving me constructive criticism.
Well, there you go. Nothing wrong with a little ass kicking every once in a while.
That's right. So this episode we are talking about I'm just gonna read the description right off the Wikipedia page. We are talking about a British Gothic fantasy horror film directed by Neil Jordan, starring Sarah Patterson. This is an odd one. I never thought we'd be talking about anything to do with Angela Lansbury on this show. Stephen Ray and David Warner. And we're talking about 1984's, which we did mention this movie during our 1984 episode. But we were talking about 1984's The Company of Wolves.
What a bizarre movie this was. What was your first introduction to this film?
I mean, I never saw it when I was a kid, and I kind of remember, for some reason, I don't know if it was because we saw it in video stores or what the deal was, but the cover did, look familiar.
Okay.
But going into this, I had no idea what it was. I didn't even realize that Angela Lansbury was really in it until we were already going down the path of reviewing it. So I was like, oh, well, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, this film, the cover and the box, I remember it very, very, very well because this was back in elementary school. And just for the record, I never saw this film until we reviewed it. So about a couple of weeks ago, was the first time I ever saw this. And, but when we were, 11 or 12 years old, when we had that, we were really into werewolves and always talking about The Howling and American Werewolf in London. I was on a mission to find every werewolf movie that existed and watch it. And I remember finding this one at the video store. I never rented it, though. And also another one that we reviewed, I think a few years ago, called Wolfen. That was another one that was around that was sort of like a different take on the werewolf mythos. Yeah, this one, the cover art was very, very prominent, at least at this one mom and pop video store, because I just remember always, every time you'd go to the horror section, there it was sitting there, and it was that Little Red Riding Hood character watching as this werewolf was changing, or a wolf was more like a wolf was coming out of the person's mouth, which was a really bizarre image to have in your head, especially when you're 11 or 12 years old.
Oh, that's too funny. It's when we had originally decided to do this one, I jumped online and actually purchased this movie on VHS. I ended up I found it on eBay, I didn't get took too bad for it on eBay. I mean, anymore you have to be careful with some of the eBay prices. Sometimes they gouge you.
You picked this up on VHS?
I did, and I think I'm going to start doing that more often for some of these movies that I don't already own on VHS, some of these older ones.
Does it have the cover art that I just talked about?
Yep, it does.
When you turn it around on the back, does it have the picture of the guy changing, like the kind of with a bloody face.
Yep.
Okay. Wow, that's the original one then.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they ever like did another like update on VHS other than.
Oh yeah, I'm not sure. It is on Vestron Video.
That is. It's a Vestron film too.
Yep.
Wow. Well, there you go. That was the answer to our question for that competition that you just mentioned.
And
there you go. Another Vestron film, huh?
Yeah, but I don't even know why I brought it up that I bought it, but I did get it on VHS and then I watched it, and
cool.
There is something really cool about watching, some of these older flicks on VHS. It kind of, the graininess and all that stuff does add a little bit to it. I don't know if this particular movie, if I would have wanted to watch it in high definition, I think it would have maybe lost a little bit of its charm if you would have doing it that way compared to watching it on VHS. I mean, if you only have the option to watch it on, streaming or on Blu-ray or something, then, that is what it is. But I think from here on out, depending on what it is, if it's something worth buying, maybe if I don't already own it, maybe I'll go ahead and try to pick it up. Now, with that said, I did end up spending almost $15 for this particular VHS tape, which for what it is, isn't a bad price for what I was seeing after I watched it. I would have maybe only paid $5 for it.
Well, it's cool that you got the original thing. I mean, because that's this film is one of those, whether or not it's a good film or not, it's still got that sort of classic sort of vibe to it. Because again, it goes back to the mom and pop video store days and being one of those movie boxes that you saw all the time. And so I think that in and of itself is a cool purchase.
Yeah, it does look cool on the shelf too. I mean, it's kind of cool when you're looking through and the Company of Wolves. That's a cool cover. That's pretty nice.
Yeah. Oh, that is so cool. Yeah, I did not know you purchased that because I know like after we got done talking, I had let you know that it was on Prime when we were discussing what the next film was going to be. So.
Yep.
And that's how I watched it. I watched it on Prime, so I didn't pay a penny for it. And it took me actually 3 sittings to get this thing completely viewed. And that's typically not a good sign.
Well, I will say, like I said before, I did purchase this, and it does look cool on the shelf. I don't know if this is going to be one of those movies that I'll necessarily go back to on my own. But I am with you on that. It did take me a couple of times. I watched this, the first attempt, I watched it for probably an hour, and I was not giving it my full attention. And so a couple of days, so I stopped it because I was like, I have no idea what the hell's going on.
And that's a problem with this film, too. It's a very weird timeline and storyline that you have to really pay attention to what's going on because you don't know whether it's like if it's real or if it's a story somebody's telling. Or after 3 sittings, I'm still like wondering what the hell I saw. Like it's a very complicated, difficult story to follow because you're not sure whether it's like somebody telling a story or is it the actual real events that are occurring. It's like it kind of bounces around a lot.
It does, and it's really weird the way that they do that. So this story starts off, I guess this is the best way to do it. So basically what happens is you have this girl in like modern day who is dreaming that she lives in like this weird fairy tale world, and then she is hanging out with her grandmother, who is played by Angela Lansbury. So you have the opening of the movie is like in modern day 1984. It's not modern day now.
Is it supposed to be 1984 though?
Well, that I'm not sure, but like present day, I guess. And then, so then you have this girl who goes into this dream state, which the very opening dream thing is kind of creepy and stuff. But then she's hanging out with her grandmother, who's played by Angela Lansbury, in this dream. And then Angela Lansbury tells her this like fairy tale story in the dream. So you have a story sequence in a dream sequence. But they never really go back to the present day stuff at all. I don't think really ever. So it's like that part was kind of like you could have just left that out.
So did the sister actually really die, or was that a story?
I have no idea. That was like in her dream.
Okay, so it's like the opening scene is like these parents coming into a house, and then the sister this girl goes running upstairs to check on her sister, and then you go into see the sister laying in bed, and then do we go into the sister's dream? And then anyhow, we go into this weird dream where basically all the little dolls and knickknacks in this girl's bedroom are like all life size, and they're in the woods, and she's running into them, and then there's this pack of wolves that are basically chasing her, and then somehow she dies. And then it goes into the story where it's the grandma and the little girl talking about, oh yeah, your sister died, and then they're like, you know, and then it goes into this where they're like putting her coffin into the ground. See, I to be honest with you, I have no idea what the timeline is. This is a terrible movie to review because I really don't even know what I'm talking about. I watched this movie and I don't know. I mean, it's basically, I mean, wouldn't you say it's kind of like a Little Red Riding Hood kind of? I mean, it's obviously a take on that.
Yeah, at the very end, it took that turn because she's wearing like this red cloak throughout the thing, and then at the very end of the movie, it definitely was like, because that's what I was watching. I was like, oh, wait, is this like some weird take on Red Riding Hood?
Yeah. So then there's this story within the story that's basically this woman gets married. And then her husband one night like goes out into the woods, and then he never comes back. Then he comes back like years later, and she's already like remarried and has like 3 kids. And then he comes back, goes into the cottage, and he's basically like, "Hey, I want dinner. You know, I've been waiting for years." And then he looks around and he realizes there's a bunch of kids running around, and I don't think they ever consummated the marriage, right?
I don't have any idea. Sorry. I apologize for this. We should have done a disclaimer on this. This is like, and this really is such an odd movie. Like you have to, the first time you see this, if you've never seen this before, you really have to set everything down and just sit down and watch it and actually pay attention. Because like I said, I tried to watch it once. I ended up turning it off about an hour in because I was like, I have no idea what's going on. And then, so I was watching it the second time, and then I got like a couple minutes into it, and I was like, oh, wait. All right, so I got to take my phone and put my phone in the other room and just sit here and focus on this because this is already weird. And then I still like was in it. I watched it in the middle of the day. You know, so I wasn't like, I had no interference at all. I didn't have any drinks or anything. So, I mean, I was stone cold sober going through it, and it got done, and I was still like, I'm not sure if I know what happened.
Yeah.
Because I had actually even like probably a good half an hour into it, I had to like, I cheated and I looked at the Wikipedia page to kind of see like, oh, that's what's going on. Because I was like, like I said, the very beginning of the movie, you have this thing where it's like present day, and this mom and dad, and there's this girl, and she runs through and, you know, checking on her sister. And then you have this weird dream sequence. And so you're like, okay, so that's a dream. But then all of a sudden it's like this 1800s stuff, and you're like, wait.
Yeah.
What? When is this? And then that's when I was like, it's still the dream. Okay, that's weird.
So is it all a dream then?
Pretty much the whole movie. Well, so it's like
it's gotta be, right?
Like the whole movie's a dream, but then you have these things where like Angela Lansbury is telling this story, like in the dream, and so you have this whole story sequence, and then that ends, and then towards the end of the movie, then you have this other person who's telling the story. You know, you had like these two different stories being told within the dream, and then the movie, like at the end of the movie, it goes back to like present day, but you're not sure if that actually was real or if that was a dream still or what.
Yeah,
it's so like, weird.
It's like a fairy tale basically, but you don't know who's telling the fairy tale. You don't know exactly. I mean, it's obviously like a lot of these underpinnings of Little Red Riding Hood. But I want to go real quickly into the practical effects of this film, because this was 1984, and so we already had An American Werewolf in London and The Howling. They were already released a few years earlier, and which they kind of set the bar for werewolf effects big time. Those two movies, I think, more than any other. And this one, like that first scene that we have, like, where this going back to that, the dad coming home or the husband coming home and then finding out his wife had remarried and had kids and started a whole new life without him. So he has this transformation scene, and basically it was kind of one thing that was interesting about this. And I had mentioned in our, one of the episodes we did a few years ago for Trick or Treat, which was the Michael Dougherty film that came out like in the 2000s. I always thought the episode with the werewolves was really cool because it was a different take on how a werewolf transforms, where they had those girls and they basically like peeled their skin off and underneath they were the werewolf. So it was like kind of a neat, different take on it because I hadn't seen that before. But I guess this movie kind of did it first. And basically it's like the wolf is inside this guy and he starts peeling his skin off. And then, just like the cover art shows, like, the creature is inside him. Now, I will say though that it was, it's enjoyable to watch practical effects, even the ones that aren't very good, just because it's kind of, it's always kind of keeps your focus for a second. I think the same thing, like when you watch like an old B movie with a, cheesy rubber suit monster, it's just kind of cool to watch that even sometimes. But this was definitely like several points below the Howling and American Werewolf when it came to transformations. I mean, it was like you could tell this is totally a mechanical monster, and yeah, it was. What did you think of that? I wasn't expecting that. I had no idea that was going to happen. That transformation scene.
I remember seeing in the opening credits something about wolf animation or werewolf animation or. No, not animation, animatronics. And I was
really?
Because I remember it was like, werewolf animatronic operator or something was some name. And I was like, oh, cool. Maybe we'll get some Werewolf in London type transformation in this. There was two different transformations in it. And I remember seeing the first one. And my thought was like, oh, cool. So they did the Trick or Treat transformation before Trick or Treat did it. That's kind of cool.
Oh, you were thinking that too, huh?
But then it kind of morphed into from that, like once he pulled all the skin off and then he kind of did the whole sort of, American Werewolf in London transformation where like the snout came out of his nose and out of his face and stuff. So that was kind of cool. Honestly, the transformation scene was kind of gross, really. I mean, it's all bloody, and I mean, he just sticks his fingers like right into his cheek and just like rips his skin off, and you're like, ugh. The only thing that I thought was, and I'm sure it was done intentional, but when he pulled all the skin off and then like he turned into the wolf, like the wolf was still like tissue and bone. He had no hair on him.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, then that was the only thing that bugged me about that was, even I know it was practical effects and stuff, but it could have been done a little cleaner because you had this whole drawn out transformation scene. It pulls the skin off and then extends all these parts and stuff all done, and it looks all cool and stuff. And then they kind of cut away and cut back, and then it's a wolf.
Yeah, like an action
Yeah, and it's not even a werewolf; it's a wolf. And that was the only thing I was like, "Oh man, you went full Twilight on this? Come on!"
Then let's fast forward a little bit because there's another transformation scene. I forgot, like when you said there's multiple. Then you said that it kind of triggered, and I remembered. Oh yeah. There's that scene at the dinner table. Is that the one you were talking about?
Yeah, well, there's the one there's the one towards the beginning when Angela Lansbury's first telling the story in the dream, and then there's the one that like you were talking about that's sort of towards the end where the guy was away and he came back, and then he's like, "Oh, these aren't my kids, you whore." And then he had the weird 8-foot tongue flapping around.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, where you can see it's obviously not like a fake head and it's giant tongue sticking out. Oh, yeah, that was so bizarre. But then there's this weird scene, too. Another, you got to mention this scene as well, there's this weird dinner party going on. And again, this is, I don't know if I'm going too fast with this, but no, just, going by the fact that I really don't know what the hell was happening in this movie. I'm just going by, oh, okay, here's the transformation scene. So anyhow, there's a scene where there's this tent and there's all these people eating, and there's this old woman who's making a big mess, eating a turkey leg or something like that. And then anyhow, this redheaded woman was she the one that was wandering around naked in the streets?
I don't remember, to be honest with you.
Okay. Well, there was this woman, and I don't recall, something happened with her, and she ends up in this really bizarre scene, finding these, she climbs a tree or something, and there's this nest, a bird's nest, and then these eggs open up, and there's these little ceramic human babies inside them, and there's some sort of imagery going on with that, and somehow it transforms into that she's pregnant, and I guess because she took one of them, I don't know. And again, somebody who loves this movie is probably going to be listening to this review and think, "You didn't get that?" And oh my gosh, and whatever. But anyhow, this redheaded woman ends up at this dinner party with all these they seem like elitist kind of ritzy, I don't know, kind of snobby English people, and they're all around eating, and then all of a sudden she walks through and she shows everybody that she's pregnant, just from the hump in her belly, and then they all, for whatever reason, start transforming, and then the main transformation is their feet, because they show underneath the table, and everybody's werewolf type feet kind of break through their shoes, and then their faces get all morphed, and we get some more snouts growing. But then again, it turns into where it's basically, it was kind of a funny scene because it's all these wolves basically wearing human clothes, and then they're running around the table, and actual real wolves, so for the movie, they took real wolves and then just tied a shirt on them or whatever, and then they had them just kind of run around the table. It's everybody turned into a real wolf.
So that particular scene, could you imagine watching this, say in high school, you and a couple of buddies, and you'd smoked a bowl before you started this movie or something, and you get to that scene and you're just like, "Oh man, is that something in that weed or something? What the hell is going on?"
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's such an odd scene.
So weird.
But and that's the thing too, because there was all these like I said, there was all these weird tales in the movie, to where it almost felt like it was supposed to be, and you're gonna have to hear me out on this, but it almost felt to me like this was supposed to be sort of like a Tales from the Dark Side or Creep Show type of movie, to where they were going to have all of these little stories in, individual stories in the movie, but then it turns out they're all kind of connected somehow, but it wasn't executed very well.
I think you're right. Yeah. I think you're right, because it's very hard to follow it all, but you can tell that there's different stories, because there's the one story with the, we talked about, the woman and she gets married, and then her husband leaves and he comes back, and then he transforms in front of her, and then her new husband comes in and kills him. There's that whole story. Then there's the story of the Little Red Riding Hood character and her family and that really annoying little redheaded kid who's like following her around in every scene. Then there's that scene, there's that story, and then there's the story with the redheaded woman who's, you know, somehow gets pregnant and she's wandering around naked in scenes, and we don't really know what's going on. But I think the whole concept is basically something revolving around that there's these people that have these that are really wolves, and they're really part of this wolf pack, and it kind of finally culminates in this bizarre ending where we get this Little Red Riding Hood character going off to Grandma's house, and then this character who is really the wolf, he gets there first, and it's the whole Red Riding Hood thing, you know, and it's what a bizarre death for Angela Lansbury, though. Didn't you find that like really?
Oh yeah, just all of a sudden like gets her head just like knocked right off, and then it's like ceramic. You're like, what?
Okay, exactly what you just said is the problem we had with this film. How do you like that explanation? Okay, so a ceramic head. How are we supposed to interpret this film? I know there's probably some artistic explanation for all of this, and maybe it's just, you know, it must be above our pay grade or something, because I had no idea what was going on other than basically what you said. It's like a bunch of stories interwoven, and they all kind of come back to the concept. I think like the running theme was, okay, if you're out in the woods, just make sure you don't run into a guy who has a unibrow, because that guy's probably going to be a wolf. That was kind of the thing. That was sort of the running theme through all these stories.
It was such a weird movie, man. It was kind of funny, too, because it reminded me of if you took the movie Labyrinth and Legend and The Princess Bride and you threw those into like a blender and mixed it all up and then threw, you know, a little bit of like American Werewolf London in there as well. And then you get this weird like fairy tale movie, yes. But it's like it just wasn't, again, just wasn't well executed in my sense.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were going to have all these different stories, they have to be separated somehow to where you can like, oh, okay, so now we're moving on to this story, or okay, now we're moving on to this story, rather than, you know, if you take your eyes off of the screen for a minute and you look back and you're like, oh wait, these are completely different people than we're just here. What's going on?
Yeah, it was very confusing, and then at the end, like the Little Red Riding Hood apparently was a wolf too, and I had such a hard time following it and getting interested in it, and it was kind of nice. Like the practical effects stuff was just sort of like, oh, okay, cool. This is kind of weird and interesting to watch. You know, I don't really know what the story is about this, but that's kind of fascinating. So those were kind of nice little breaks, like when they have something like that. But they were few and far between. And man, I just was not following this thing.
So there you guys have it. I thought for sure, and I think Mark was on the same page, that we were going to be in and out of this episode in under 20 minutes. And all said and done, we're probably right around a half an hour of,
oh my goodness,
of complete confusion.
Total confusion, yeah. And I'm going to have to go ahead and say I'm going to have to give this one a thumbs down. I didn't want to do that because I was hoping this would be something that one of those hidden classics that you know, from back in the day that I never discovered until present time. But no, it was definitely not that. It was a huge disappointment, I think.
I'll have to say the same, unfortunately. Yeah, I kind of was hoping for something more, and then it just didn't live up to the expectations that were non-existent. And honestly, I mean, I can't say that I'm really surprised, because I just kept thinking the whole time when I was, you know, watching it, I'm like, so weird, Angela Lansbury's in a horror movie.
Well, horror is a kind of a strong title for this. I mean, it was very much fantasy too, so definitely, I would definitely say you need to steer clear from this one. I mean, if you want to see a good werewolf movie, just grab one of the ones we talked about. You know, The Howling, An American Werewolf in London, Silver Bullet's another great one, and even that modern one that we did not too long ago, Howl. That was actually pretty good. So there's some good werewolf movies out there, but this ain't it.